Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited to welcome to the show today, Carey Wallace. If you don't know her, you definitely want to get to know her because she is an amazing, amazing person. I know I've enjoyed the time that I've gotten to spend with her, but she is the Chief Innovation Officer for the Ohio Insurance Agents Association, as well as the CEO of IntellAgents. Did I get that right?
Got that right.
Okay,
Thanks,
all
Olivia.
right. Good deal. Well, welcome. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today. We met officially in New Orleans at Elevate. And yeah, but it was like we already knew each other.
Yeah, social media is a beautiful thing, is it not? And we have so many common friends that I knew so much about you before I actually met you face to face. But yeah, it's not been that long since we've actually known each other in person. So
yeah,
I'm so excited to be here and talking with you. I think, you in our industry lead the way in how to get your story out there, how to be authentic. I love listening to everything that you do. So I was super pumped to be able to have a conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we've gotten to, dig into your work a little bit before on a previous broadcast with Agency Nation, but I'm excited to just kind of dig into that a little bit more, into some other parts of your story, because I feel like there's always a lot of different things that make up who we are. And so I'm excited to just get a chance to learn more about you and let the audience know more about you as well. So, so let's talk about what is family? Where's home for Carey?
So home is Columbus, Ohio. It's the place that I've lived the longest in my life. I've lived here for about 19 or 20 years. I guess it's 20 years now. But I grew up in the Army, so I lived everywhere. So prior to that, the longest I ever lived anywhere was about 6 years. So wow. Yeah, Columbus, Ohio is definitely home. So yeah, and so my family, I have a wife, Wow, I have a husband of 26 years. His name's Kevin, and he's from Ohio. That's one of the reasons we actually chose to live here. And I have two daughters, Morgan and Lindsay. They are 21 and 20. So that is who makes up the Wallace tribe.
Yeah. So prior to everything with coronavirus, you were traveling a lot. So yes. What is life like now that your home base is home base a lot more than it was before?
Well, I can tell you my family's really happy that I'm here. And I got a bonus round that my daughter, who was studying abroad, is now back with us. So she's in her junior year, and I've gotten to spend more time with her than I typically get to. So that's been pretty cool. And my other daughter lives with us. So we've gotten to cook together. We've gotten to, have breakfast together. These are, I miss a fair amount by being on the road. But, I love my job. I love what I do. But it's allowed us to kind of slow down and really enjoy some time together. So, yeah, it's not been a bad thing for us at all.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to be home. So I was working from home. So my travel schedule, completely, it just was reduced significantly when I took the new position with Total CSR, which was a good thing. I mean, the timing really couldn't have been better, right? Nobody knew this was coming the way that it has descended upon our lives. But yeah, it's it does make you pause, relax a little bit more. I think that there's a lot more dancing and music going on in my house. So it's been fun. I just feel like I'm getting to know a different side of my kids that I wouldn't have if this wasn't our reality right now. So
yes. So my March was supposed to be, I might have had about 7 days where I was going to be home. I had a ton of travel. There were a ton of conferences. In fact, one conference I spoke at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. They were both in Nashville. So I had anticipated to not be in Columbus at all for the month of March. And one of the fun things my daughter and I have done as a result of being together is we made a few TikToks together. believe it or not, which was super funny. I'm really glad that no one I know follows her on TikTok.
I was going to say, what is her TikTok? I may be a recent.
But it's funny that you end up doing things you wouldn't do and really making some cool memories, by having some unexpected time together. So, when your kids get 20 and 21, you cherish every minute that you have together because they're going to make their way here pretty soon. And while I fully expect to see them and be connected to them, it's going to evolve. And so I kind of view this a little bit as a bonus,
Yeah. And I've said, I've had this conversation with people before, like, you're always a mom, right? Like, that doesn't go away. It's just the level of responsibility and obligation you have in the relationship evolves. And it's so crazy because now, my kids are younger than yours, 13, 10, and 7. And I even think about how different life is as a mom at these ages, as opposed to like when they were, 3, 6, and 9. Like, it's just, it's a constant evolution. And it is nice to have this break from a lot of the hustle and bustle that was just a natural part of our lives, 30 days ago. Because it's only been like a month or less. It seems
like longer, 3 weeks, though, doesn't it? It just seems like long. I think it's 3 weeks, actually. So, I would say your responsibility as a mom definitely evolves. I will tell you one thing I've learned, that you think as you evolve and as your kids get older, that maybe it becomes easier. And what's funny is I'm moving into where my kids think I'm smart again, and they actually need me. I know, where they need me a little bit differently than they thought they needed me maybe 5 years ago. So I don't know, I'm enjoying it. I really like the people my daughters have become. And I love that we just keep redefining our relationship. So this has been a bonus round for me. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, they were raised by good people. So but I do think it's so nice to be able to look at your kids and go, oh my gosh, you're a good human. Like, that's a really special thing to be able, like, when my kids reach out to each other and like they've been pretty good with one another. We've had our moments, but just to see them build their own relationship together because they're spending so much time together right now has been a fun thing. So there's a lot of like points being accumulated all the way around. A lot of stuff that I wish we could do differently. My son was actually heartbroken that the mall was closed the other night. I was like, I feel like mall ratting is back. do you remember that when they call people mall rats because they just hang out at the mall?
Yeah.
Did your girls go through that though?
We have an outdoor mall, and no, they did not. It is not something that they did, thankfully. They were more hang out at each other's houses, and we tried very hard for it to be our house. But Easton Town Center is the mall that's closest to us, and really that wasn't a thing. Maybe go to the movies. There's an ice skating rink there, so there's a free skate that they would do that. But I did the hang out at the mall thing. And it's coming back. I can't believe it.
It's the worst. Honestly, I'm like, what do you do? You just worry. Like, your son goes, can you drop me off at the mall? I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? Did you are you buying something? Like, why are you going? And he's like, oh no, we're just going to go hang out. I'm like, well, anything else? Like, can you hang out somewhere like other than the mall? But but thankfully, I guess the mall is temporarily closed down and I don't have to worry about my mall rat son.
Well, there you go. That's perfect. See, we're finding all the silver linings to this, right?
Yes. There's so many wins going on, right? But I do look forward to the days that we get to, hug again. I miss hugs. I think it was Woody Brown put that message out that he's gonna start a line of people that he needs to hug as soon as this is all over. And I was like, oh yeah, Seth Zaremba's like, I'm number one in line. And I was like, I think we are going to crave the physical interaction if we aren't already. I know it's hard for me and you're very much used to being around people. So does part of you just like, you miss that? And
big time, big time. I mean, the first 2 weeks of this, I think I drove my team nuts by basically saying, hey, I really miss seeing you guys. Hey, I mean, I would literally just teams them just to see their face. And, I don't know, like I'm a people person. I get energy from people. I love the people I get to hang out with that I've surrounded myself with. So yeah, while I absolutely love my family, like don't get me wrong, but I'm in my basement with no interaction with anyone else other than on my screen. And, typically I have a glass door and my entire team sits out here. I mean, I share an office with Jeff Smith, so I'm constantly around people all the time. And, it's difficult. Yeah. It's hard for people that are not introverts.
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert. I need people. So yeah. We're going to get through this, but I'm with you. Woody Brown, I am with you. We all need some hugs. I think he said that in a baseball game. We're all going to a baseball game.
Yes, we're all going to a baseball game. So yeah, if he's coordinating the event and he can just make sure that the Evite gets sent out, that would be great. We'll all be hugging outside of a baseball field somewhere. Like I'm picturing this already. It's going to be amazing.
I am kind of glad that they put a rule about social distancing out, because we had a board meeting, about a week or two before all of this happened. And we actually physically said to each other, we're not going to hug because, we don't know what this thing is. And it was like, you couldn't help yourself. Like a person that you absolutely care about and respect walks in the room and you automatically, it's like a reflex. You hug them and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then the next person comes in and you hug them too. It's like, are we crazy? But it's funny how it's just who we are as people. So I'm ready for a little bit of this to go back to the normal,
Yeah. I'm definitely a hugger. Yeah. And I just, and just not even like being able to go hang out with my neighbors. Like that feels weird, but I'm like, we can, if it warms up a little bit more, we can go back to our driveway parties. Like everybody just has to have the chairs in the circle have to be a little further apart, but I feel like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I need it to be like 10 degrees warmer, or they're going to have to build a bigger fire. Whatever works. I think we're probably about 3 days away from like somebody just hold a neighborhood meeting and we'll all meet in the street and stand appropriate distances away from each other. But yeah. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I will look forward to the days when you and I get to be in the same room together and hug it out. Like it'll be good stuff.
Yeah, I'm up for that day. You let me know when that is, and I will be there, my friends.
Okay. Yeah, maybe in the O'Hare Airport.
I'm confident that's going to happen.
I'm like seeing us running towards each other, like me and some ridiculous suitcase I'm trying to drag along with me because I'm always super cool when I travel, and I look like I have nothing together. But you'll recognize me in my pink suitcase.
Well, then we'll look like sisters because that's pretty much how I travel. It's all good. It is what it is. It gets the job done.
Yes. We'll just be grateful to be traveling again.
Exactly.
So how is work? What is going on with Ohio insurance agents? I know you were traveling a lot, and IntellAgents, and you were doing a ton of consulting and visiting with agents. What is it that you guys are up to, and how have you had to pivot your business strategy a little bit with coronavirus?
Yeah, so our focus has been to communicate as much as we possibly can to help agents deal with this crisis. It really makes sure that they're aware of what resources are available. We meet every single morning and talk about what should we share and what should we create on behalf of agents that they can share with their clients. What can we do the work for them in order to make it easier on them as they're navigating this? Because their clients have questions as well. So everything that we created for them, we've tried to think about, and what could we also help them have the tools and resources they need to share it with their clients. So that's been the number one focus. IntellAgents, we looked at our organization, and many of us are impacted by this. We're interacting with agents all the time. We had to cancel our classes, so we had to communicate that and help agents know how can you get your CE or your designations in order to continue, with what you were set out to do for this year. But the IntellAgents team is still building. We are full steam ahead on the products and services that we're creating for agents. It is important that agents be armed with data. So we're building an insights report. We're building a dashboard that agents can understand what the key performance indicators are in their agency at any given time, regardless of the system that they're on. So that work has not been interrupted. It's really the association work that said, okay, we really need to pause and make sure that agents know how to navigate this. And, pretty soon it's going to be, how do we use our data to inform them on the impact? So we know who the agents are across Ohio. In fact, I know who the agents are across 14 states right now. So what does that demographic look like? What could this pandemic do to their staff? What could this do to their clients? What could it do to their book of business? And how are they prepared to set themselves up to get through this and then pull themselves out of recession? So we've pivoted to wave 2, sharing the insights that we have and really providing them with the insights that they need in order to, have a business continuity plan. So, that's really been my focus. How do I leverage the data I have to help agents really think about what this really means and what their options are and how they can best survive? If they want to exit the industry, what can I do to help with that? There's a lot of things that could happen. 45% of our agents are at or beyond retirement age.
Yeah.
They might be thinking, okay, this might be a time.
This was the sign, right?
And I want to be there to help them. And if it's not, no problem. Let's get yourself positioned. Then when we come out of this, that's something that's available for you. So the message has changed. Maybe the messaging right now has changed, but our focus is still, what can we do to help you? So that's really been our approach. Yeah.
And I think it's more important than ever, right? Because if they didn't put an emphasis on data before, it's certainly critical that they take the time to do it now and re-strategize if they need to. And so having that information readily available, obviously you'd like to have more data and that will build over time, but getting them at least at the starting line so they can start making some decisions. Yeah, absolutely. Because this is the impact probably unknown and maybe, and I don't want to speculate. It's, my gosh, there's so much, right, that everybody has to try and navigate right now. So really understanding what the economic impact is going to look like. It's hard to say. I mean, that's my opinion at this point. There's a lot of numbers that are starting to float out there, but yeah, I mean, being able to put credible data back in their hands is, it's going to be so vital. And hopefully they're finding, as much as they are trying to play defense right now on a lot of different areas, hopefully they're finding that they have maybe a little more time, or they've made it a priority.
I think so. Yeah. I think, first and foremost, first 2 weeks was, how do I get my agency the ability to work remotely? Not all agents were able to do that. So that was the focus. And now I think we're shifting our focus to, what's going to be our strategy? How are we going to pivot during this time? And then what's our strategy once this passes to set ourselves up to really navigate beyond this crisis and continue to serve our clients? And I think that there's no better time than to make a plan right now. We're in the middle of it. So you had to make the plan, the first part, you had to solve that. But now's the time to really think about, how do I build this business and how do I make sure that it's set up for the future? So that's really where we're pivoting to. And if and when an agent's ready to do that, we're prepared. So, but we'll just keep sharing the information that we have in the context of, this is how you can start making some of the decisions that maybe you knew you needed to do someday, and someday's here. So we need to do it.
Yeah, it was funny. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody, and I said, I know I'm misusing this term, but it is almost like it's disaster recovery for the financials of your business. And I know we always think of it from an IT standpoint, but this is a different sort of thing. And so it's like, if you didn't have some sort of plan in place, you better start working on one. And tomorrow is not an option, like start doing it today. And, but I think that most agency owners are probably feeling that sense of urgency. It's just a matter of having the right set of information in order to start getting that process underway.
It
So
sure is.
Yeah. What states are you guys serving right now?
So for data, we have 14 states. So it was born in Ohio, and then we have 7 investor states, which are Michigan, Illinois, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland is one entity, but it represents 3 states. North Carolina, Florida. I think I got them all. If I missed one, oh my goodness. And then there's 5 subscriber states. So we're also in Texas, Kansas, California, Georgia, and Tennessee. And so we actually have about 17 states where we do valuation and perpetuation planning as well. So all told, we are represented in about 22 states between the 2 services that we're providing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You don't usually see that from born out of one state association. So yeah,
it's exciting to see. I have to tell you, just like our agents are evolving and ownership is transitioning, that happened at the association level as well, where there was a fair number of young leaders in our associations, and they recognized that maybe the old model is not going to work for forever, and maybe collaboration makes a lot of sense. So, we have formed this forum where we can come together and actually bring more to our agents collectively by sharing amongst each other. So it's called the IA Action Partner Group, and it's a forward-thinking group of CEOs from across the country that really see great benefit in collaborating in things like market access or data or technology or even education, where there's great synergy, and you don't need 50 of them across the states. You might need regional, or you might need one. And the fact of data, why would you have multiple data warehouses, one data warehouse where everything is? Now we can slice, and it's way more powerful to agents, to networks, to carriers, to the entire industry to have it in one place and organized. Yeah. So it's super exciting. I've been in this industry for about 11 years, and this movement to be collaborative has been incredibly inspiring. So yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's exciting work, and it's so, like, sometimes I look at it and I go, how did it take us this long to get here? Like, it seems so obvious when you look at it, you're like, yeah, obviously we need to be data driven. Like, how else we're making, you can make a certain number of decisions based on a gut feeling. But there's also a lot of decisions that need to be based on real numbers and credible data. So if you had to choose, like, the favorite, your favorite thing about your job, what would you say?
Working with an agent, sitting across the table from an agent, understanding their story and being able to share either our resources, knowledge, whatever, to help them grow their business. Being their partner is by far the most favorite thing I do. When I get to hang out in an agent's office and know that I made a difference, I'm a happy person. So I do all the other things in order to get to do that. So that is, there's no question. And what's funny is the first 7 years I was with OIA, I'd never been to an agent's office. I stayed. Oh no, I was a CFO. So I ran our business, and, I took care of our finances and did operational things within our organization. I dealt with the board, but I did not go to their offices. First office I went into was Sesaremba at Zinc Insurance.
That's a good place to start.
I know. And he's been my friend forever. I feel like we were childhood friends at this point, but I met him, within days or weeks of starting at OIA. And I had not been in their offices, which, what a crime. That's crazy, but that was what my role was. So now I spend more time in their offices than probably my own. So
that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I love what I do.
Yeah. So when you look back on your career, and you said you've been with OIA for about 11 years, but you look back, what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question. I think the biggest lesson is everything you expected. You should probably let those go, because you redefine your expectations a lot of times. I don't know if you know my story. So I started in a startup, a technology startup
Okay.
in Virginia, and I worked for them for about 8 years. And then I took 12 years off and raised my girls.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if someone would have said that, Carey, you're going to start a career and then you're going to hit a pause button and then you're going to start another career, I would have been like, you're crazy. I mean, I was one of the most driven people. Stay-at-home mom was not in my vocabulary at all. I mean, and it's the best thing I've ever done. It was actually a thing that taught me the most. But so I would say the biggest thing looking back, and anything you think as an expectation, you have to be willing to renegotiate your own expectations, because that's not what life gives you. I mean, that's not how it goes. So that's been a huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it was hard to get back into the workforce when you decided to rejoin?
It was terrifying. It was, it's so funny. I mean, anyone who knows me I wasn't sitting at home doing nothing, obviously.
Right.
But I went back to school I went back to work when my youngest daughter was going to middle school. So I stayed home through the whole elementary years, through all the toddler years, and did all kinds of things. But I wasn't viewing it as I was really doing work. I was just volunteering, and I was, doing a ton of volunteering and doing a ton of being involved in their schools and being involved in their lives. And so when I thought about going back to work, I really undersold myself. I really thought, I can probably only manage a certain level of job and be a good mom. I think that's the other thing that we do to each other, or do to ourselves as women. And so I think it's one of the reasons I stayed home. I didn't know how I would do my job and be a good mom, so I chose to stay home. But what I found is you can figure that out. It's just different for everyone.
Right.
So, but the answer to your question is, it was incredibly difficult to go back. It was, I am super, super fortunate that I ran into this opportunity. So I put my resume together on a Thursday, and I applied to 3 places on Thursday, and I was hired by, I think, the following Wednesday at OIA, which at the time was PIA, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so I did an interview. I've only been on 4 interviews in my life. So, this is just not a thing I do. So it's been a really, really good place. But I interviewed to be an accounting person, like not even the accounting lead. I mean, I don't even remember what the title was. It might have been accounting clerk, possibly. And so when I got hired, George Hansel was the CEO at the time, and didn't even get to meet him for several weeks. And when I did, he's like, "What are you doing in that role?" Absolutely not. We need you here. And so a part-time job moved into a full-time job, which turned into a leadership very, very quickly. But that's not how I saw myself. I thought, I'm just going to keep myself busy and get out of the house and do something small, because I didn't think I could juggle both. And I'm figuring it out. I think we all figure it out.
Yeah. And I think it's tough, right? We undersell our potential for some reason or another. And I wish I could unlock why that is, because I know that I've struggled with it, and I hear it all the time when I have conversations. And I know that it's not necessarily gender based, but it's certainly more with women than with men, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's the expectations. And what's funny is it's not necessarily the external expectations, it's our own expectations, And so I've had to redefine roles within our house in order to have the job I have now. I've had to redefine roles with my kids in order to have the job I have. Like, I've had to redefine expectations with my friends. It's way different being a stay-at-home mom and you have lunch on Friday with your friends versus I'm going to a part-time job that blew up into this really fantastic opportunity. Right. And now all those friends that I had all this time for, I don't. And so I've had to renegotiate a fair amount in this evolution. So I think it's all the expectations, and it comes from everywhere, but really what drives that is our own expectations of what success looks like. Right.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, I've worked the whole time that I was, that I've had children, but, I think there's a lot to be said for having appreciation for everybody's journey and how different it is. And that, there was a time that, it seemed like you had to be, like you said, you had to be one or the other. But that's like, it's a very big judgment call to say something like that. And, and so I love seeing how women come together and support each other and releasing ourselves and each other from judgment, such a huge thing in terms of really being able to, and I'm going to say live your best life, but I feel like that's just part of it.
I think it's also just being at peace with the decisions you're making. There is no such thing as balance. There is no such thing as this is the path. The only thing is your path.
Yeah.
So you've got to define what that is and be okay with it. And if not, be okay with, I'm going to redefine it again. So, but I have a cousin who told me when she turned 40, it's when she decided to give herself permission to, let go of the expectations that others had on her. And I thought, goodness, don't wait till 40. That's the key. Isn't it? It's just give yourself permission to do what you define. And then if it doesn't work, redefine it and be okay with it,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it does. It is hard because you kind of if you've created this image at age 18, which I don't think that any 18-year-old is really prepared to create the rest of their life and decide exactly how it's going to be. But you kind of get hooked on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things start not exactly going to according to plan, if you can't renegotiate, then you're just gonna be miserable. And so, giving yourself permission to let go of all, I love that, Carey. I mean, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, you just think about the expectations you have for yourself and even expectations you have for other people in your life. I think if you do kind of look at it from the lens of we're all going to have to renegotiate on this path. And the more we're willing to do that, probably the further we're going to get and the happier we're going to be doing it.
Absolutely. And surround yourself with people that are going to support that, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. I don't have any people around me that I don't view as wildly successful, and all their paths are completely different. They didn't all graduate, get married, have 2 kids, 2.5 kids, buy a house, go to college. That's not their story.
Right.
But they've all influenced me in many, many ways. Life would be boring if we all just did the expected thing that we all have perceived in our minds.
Yeah.
That's not how it works,
Yeah.
Kids have a funny way of changing what your perspective and what your expectations are. I told you that's the biggest lesson I ever had is, being a mom. It's definitely redefining. It's not one size fits all in any aspect of our lives. So you got to be okay with the redefining. Yeah.
Yeah. So who has had a significant impact? Have you had mentors along the way that you feel like have just, been that person for you?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So my biggest mentor that stands out in my career is my first boss. So I graduated high school really young and went to college, which means I graduated really young. Mm-hmm. I graduated, I think I was 20 and then got married when I was 21. So I started working with them pretty young. And he trusted me so quickly and gave me incredible opportunities. His name's John Moynihan. He was the CFO of the startup that I worked for. And we ended up taking the company public, which was super exciting. It was a family. It was like our baby. I was there from when the company was born until it was, on being traded publicly, which is crazy. And I don't know, I was able to build a level of trust so quickly. And when I think back on it, what I would trust a 21-year-old or a 23-year-old or a 24-year-old. He did it like implicitly. And it was crazy. So he taught me about how do you be a good manager? How do you build and instill and trust someone? And how do you lead in a way that you inspire other people to follow through? I mean, he's my guide all the time. And when I think about what would he would have, because he did it for me. And I want nothing more to do that for other people, but it's hard. Like now that I'm that age and I'm looking at 20 somethings, it's super hard, but he's huge and definitely shaped who I am career wise. My dad is a huge influence on my life. I know that's probably, but my dad was an amazing person, and he had the ability to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room and connected very, very closely. But my dad traveled much like my travel is now. Yeah. And what's funny is when I think back on it, I never feel like my dad was very far away. Like that's a gift, right? So I try really hard to emulate that. So he's huge. You know, George Hansel, for even thinking that I could possibly come back after 12 years is crazy. So there's been a lot of people, but then there's some, I have a Jennifer Hansen who runs Dreams on Horseback, is one of the most inspiring people I know. And I try to emulate her as well. She lives her passion. She helps other people. She works in a demographic that, I care about people with special needs because I live that part of my life. She chose it because she knew she had a gift with the situation she had, which I don't know. It's just mind boggling. She's super inspirational. So there's a lot of people that have, agents. I could give you a list of agents. There's so many. Matt Simon. Do you know Matt Simon?
Yes, I do know Matt. Yes.
He's one of the most thoughtful and steady and inspiring and gifted people that I've had the pleasure of knowing. Yeah. And so, and again, incredibly young, but so wise, and it's just, so I could go on forever, but yes, there's been huge people in my life that are super inspiring. When I look around sometimes, I'm like, man, I might be the lightweight in this room pretty much every day of my life, because I've found a way to surround myself with people far better than me. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's what they say, right? Like, don't ever be the smartest person in the room.
Well, goodness gracious, I am not, for sure. Trust me on that one. I am definitely not, because I hang out with some super awesome people. But yeah, those are the people. And I try to emulate what they meant to me. And then hopefully I can do that the same way. Because I think what you mean to someone is what you leave behind. And, I hope that I can do that.
Yeah. So let's talk about this Dreams on Horseback a little bit. Like amazing story in 2019, right? It was late in 2019 that you guys were recognized for your work with that. Where was that born out of? Why are you guys involved in it? I know it's a beautiful story, and I love the work that you're doing, but would love to share it with everybody else too.
Yeah. So Dreams on Horseback is a horse farm that's literally around the corner from my house. So I have to pass it to go to the grocery store. So my girls are, I believe they were 4 and 5 at the time, maybe even 3 and 4, and they love the horses. We drive by the horses every single day. And, finally they're like, Mom, we want to pet the horses. So I went and, stopped. I didn't know if it was a private farm, if it was a public, I didn't know. Because it doesn't look a thing like it looks today. I mean, this is obviously long ago. And I met, a couple people there. They let us pet the horses, and they said that they had a program called Cowpoke where you could learn safety around a horse. And I have a, 3 and 4-year-old. I'm like, yeah, that's the program we need. I don't need him on a big horse. I just be safe. And, I will tell you, you meet Jennifer Hansen and you are hooked for life. So she is the person who ran Cowpoke, and she is just energy, and she's so passionate, and my kids love her. But I immediately joined her board, found out what the mission of this place was, which was to use horses to reach people that otherwise wouldn't be able to be reached. So either from a socioeconomic standpoint, which is where they started, or through different challenges that you might have in your life that traditional no longer works. So, for instance, they have a program for at-risk kids that are at risk of not graduating. They can come to the farm and actually learn their curriculum through the use of horses in order to be successful. And so I joined the board. My husband joined the board, I think at the same time. And then she asked if we wanted to build a program around kids on the autism spectrum. By then, my daughter was probably 7 or 8. So my oldest daughter's on the autism spectrum. And so we were the parent mentors to help shape that program. And so all along, we've volunteered. We brought volunteer groups there. We've raised money for them. And it's a program that my daughter started in as the first participant and then was able to be a volunteer and mentor younger kids. So it's been super cool. Yeah.
So last year, you guys were part of the
Points of Light. Yeah. So
right?
Points of Light recognizes families who volunteer together. And so, I mean, Dreams on Horseback is like another family. If you came to my kids' graduation party, there was the Wallace family, the Bell family, and the Barn family. And they were equally represented number of people-wise. It was crazy. So Points of Light, someone within the organization nominated our family for the Family Volunteer of the Year. And so it was like, I don't know. I can't remember the number. Maybe it's 3,000 nominations. And then it was narrowed down to finally the top 5. And that's when it came to interview us, and we were all on Good Morning America. And then we were all taken to Disney. We were not the ultimate winner, but we totally were the winner, by the way. Because, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, definitely winning.
Yeah, so it was super cool. And the best thing in this is, again, my daughter, who for most of her life has needed the help, has found a way that she could also provide help. And then see that it was recognized in that way. It was just crazy, So volunteering is an important part of our life. And that this place has been an important part of our life. And I think it's a great way for you to connect with people in a completely different way. So had I not stayed home, I probably wouldn't have been the one driving by and having them pet those horses. So that's what I mean. Redefine what success is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been huge for us.
Yeah. And I think it's just such a beautiful story to think about what this has done for your daughter. Like how amazing that it gives her a way to contribute and also and get the help that she needs, or so I think it's what an amazing thing to do. I don't know if we have anything like that around here. I know I have a friend that does some therapy with horses, but I don't know what the extent is of her work, but
it's funny, that story created all kinds of connections. Ron Berg actually volunteers in a place that's just like that. I don't know if you know him at the National. Yeah. So he volunteers in a place like that. He reached out and was like, I had no idea you were involved in something like that. And Ryan Pessel, who's a great agent in Ohio, reached out and said, I have a client that needs to meet you. And I mean, I drove up and talked with her and, connected them together. So she wants to build a facility. It's just funny how your stories end up connecting all over the place,
Yes.
And so. Yeah.
And I think it is such a beautiful thing, isn't it? When you see how your lives intersect and what all of that means. I mean, we don't know it all in the moment. Right. But then getting to look back and see the impact is pretty remarkable.
And we didn't do it for that reason. I got to say, selfishly, I've gotten way more out of this organization than I've ever given. It's created an opportunity for my family to spend time together in a completely different way. It's been a great support network for families like ours that, are trying to navigate that challenge or that world or that situation. So, I can't possibly give enough to this organization to ever repay them for what we've been given. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And I love that you guys were recognized by Disney. I remember when that came across Twitter, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? It was like you saw this story and you were instantly I just felt like I was it just warmed my heart so much. Cause I didn't know that part of like your family history and what you guys were involved in. And so it felt like such a great way for me to get to know you a little bit better as well, and your whole family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fun, like to see how everything connects. It's just, it's beautiful. And human connection is just like, we're recognizing how important that is now more than ever.
Big
I feel
time.
like
Big time.
Yeah. So what does the future hold for you? What's next?
Yeah. So I am, IntellAgents is about a year and 4 months in. So I'm not finished here. We've got a lot of work to do. So that's on heavy on my list of, how do we continue to build? How do we make this ingrained in every single agent that wants to be data driven, that they can have access to the information they need? But for me personally, I can't wait to teach some. I want to write more. I think we shared a little bit about that. That is, again, you have a numbers person who now has moved into a consulting role. I had never done any public speaking prior to, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I can't even tell you how many opportunities I have to speak in front of very large crowds, by the way. So, that's a thing. Again, redefining what your expectations are of yourself. I would have, initially I was like, there's no way I can do that. And now I'm like, I actually can do that. Imagine that. So I really want to write, and I really want to teach. And, eventually, when I'm done with this industry, which isn't anytime soon, I think that I want to do something that helps, kids with special needs in a different way. So maybe I will be writing and teaching about that someday. But for now, I want to write and teach about how to help people run their businesses the way they want to, set themselves up for the future. So you'll see me definitely in front of some groups teaching, and you might see some things published by me at some point.
Yeah.
That's on the horizon.
Well, I'll be in that classroom, and I will be reading whatever you publish for sure. So I have one more question for you. If you got to play DJ for the world for 5 minutes, you get to play any song, what would you play?
Any song?
Mm-hmm.
Any song. Well, let's see. I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan, so I go with No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Okay. Representing New York again.
There it is.
I love it. Oh my, that is a great song. Oh my
It is, right?
Yes, I love it. Oh my goodness.
Well, wait, if you were DJ for a minute, what song would you play?
So I have to keep changing my answer because otherwise I would say the same thing on every show. And honestly, like the song that I feel like everybody needs to dance to changes for me. So I for whatever reason, this song popped in my head the other day, and now I can't stop playing it, but it's Telephone with Lady Gaga and Beyonce.
Yeah, very nice.
No idea why this came back into my orbit, but now I'm like, I just listened to it. My kids are like, will you please stop? And I was like, no, this song is it was one of the best music videos ever made. And now nobody watches music videos, but I'm like, I still remember it. It was, it's probably not even that much of a throwback. It's probably, I don't even know, but
it's an awesome song. What are you talking about? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Awesome. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's fun. It's fun. I like to think of us all having some sort of dance party.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be fun, right? Right after we do all of our hugs, right?
Yes. We're going to hug and we're going to dance. Once you're done with the hug, you can go over on the dance floor and then eventually make your way into the baseball game.
Exactly. Good plan. I think this is a really strong plan.
Yes. I'll bring the disco ball.
Oh, now it's a party, people.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today, Carey. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I cannot wait until we get to see each other again in person. This is fun for now because this is how we would be seeing each other anyway, but I am looking forward to that airport moment.
I am too. Let's plan it. We got to do it.
Yes, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll catch up soon.
All right. Take care. Thanks for having me.